Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, it wasn't that long ago that Emily Thornberry was consigned to the Labour backbenches after an ill-advised tweet about the St George's Cross. Changed days. Now Shadow Foreign Secretary and, I read, a gay icon. She is tipped as a future Labour leader, and even Jeremy Corbyn's most ardent admirers look forward to her Prime Minister's questions. But has she got the answers too? She joins me now. Welcome, Emily Thornberry. Can I ask, first of all, about the John Warboys case? Are you hoping that this goes to judicial review and the release is reversed? You're a lawyer, after all.
Yeah, I don't. The path that they're taking, I don't quite follow, and I haven't had a chance to look at it properly. But I think this. I think that the public are completely bewildered that Warboys is being released as early as he is. He is a serious criminal and a threat to women, and I don't think that his victims, nor frankly the majority of women, are going to be convinced that he doesn't continue to be a threat to us.
Do you think it's surprising that there's all these allegations that there were many, many more rapes and attempted rapes that have not been prosecuted and that they are being left to one side at the moment?
I think there's two things about that. I think the Crown Prosecution Service can't proceed unless they think that they have a realistic chance of a conviction. But I think that we still have to continue on a journey whereby we prosecute rapes as well as we possibly can do, and I think that we are coming from a very dark place. I think that they have not been prosecuted properly for really quite a long time. There are improvements, but the question is, have they improved enough? And has Warboys actually benefited from some of those prosecutions not being done as well as they should be, and some of those women not being taken seriously early enough?
And given that the decision has now been taken to release him, I suppose going back to judicial review is about the only thing the government can do.
Well, that's what I was saying. I haven't really thought through the legal ramifications of this. I'm sorry, I can't.
OK, I quoted your rather spectacular comment about Donald Trump. You've also said that he's a dangerous man in the past. Are you delighted, therefore, that he is not coming to this country in February?
Listen, I don't want him to come to the country. I don't think that he should have been given an invitation in the way that he was. I think that it was wrong for Theresa May to so prematurely give him a state visit. I think that it embarrasses the Queen. I think that it's humiliating for her. I think it's wrong to have brought her into this in this way. The visit in February was supposed to be to open the embassy. And then the question is, you know, what kind of visit did he think he was going to get? Did he think he was going to go to the visit in a gold coach? Did he think that he was going to get, you know, all all that stuff? Well, you know, Londoners are not terribly impressed with him, and, you know, surprise, surprise, and neither, frankly, are the British.
I think the formal position is still that he is invited to come to this country at some point this year. Is your position now that he should not come at all?
It's very difficult, once an invitation for a state visit has been made, to withdraw it. As I say, only the Queen can withdraw it, and I don't want to put her into that embarrassing position. I think, though, that the government can give advice to Washington and can say that we have to have security considerations. There will be major demonstrations. He did at one stage say that he didn't want to come to Britain until the British had learnt to love him, and I was quite relaxed about that.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you've all had a great deal of fun at Donald Trump's expense, perhaps, on the Labour Party side, but isn't there a serious problem here, which is that once we leave the EU, if we leave the EU, then everything depends upon getting big trade deals with other parts of the world. Above all, top of the queue, Donald Trump's America. If we have completely hacked him off, if he really hates us, it's going to be much, much harder for a future government, which might well be a Labour government, to do the deal that needs to be done.
All right, well, let's take this in stages. The first thing is that he said that he wanted to do a trade deal with Britain and that he thought that he could do it within weeks. That shows that he doesn't have a real grasp of what a trade agreement actually is. These things take years. Secondly, it won't be for him to be making the trade deal. There are many people in the United States. We're not in some medieval court.
But you can't go around the president.
Well, I think that, you know, the American democracy has many checks and balances, and I think that there are a number of people who are very important to speak to. And we never know from day to day what Donald Trump even thinks. Thirdly, we have been trading perfectly successfully with the United States for a very long time. They are our biggest trading partner outside the EU without a trading deal anyway.
I suppose all I'm saying is that he might be there for quite a long time. He might win another election. He may be there for a long time to come. And asteroid of awfulness, good though it is, may not be enough to cut it, really.
He is an asteroid of awfulness that has fallen on this world. I think that he is a danger, and I think that he is a racist.
We've been very, very clear about that. Can I ask you about another regime, Iran? Why do you find it so difficult as a party to decide, as between the protesters on the one hand and the regime on the other, who, in your words, has the white hats?
Okay. The situation is this. Obviously, we would condemn any arrest of peaceful demonstrators. There are peaceful demonstrators who are now in prison in Iran, and that's wrong. You know, people should be allowed,
used as
yes,
well.
and people should be allowed to express their views in a peaceful way, and it is completely wrong. It's a breach of human rights for this to be happening. The difficulty is that the picture in Iran is a complex one. You have Rouhani, who is, I hate to use the word liberal in the context of Iran, but is certainly somebody who is responsible for the economy, is responsible for the Iranian nuclear deal where they're stopping building nuclear weapons, is trying to move the country
So he's somebody
forward.
we have to keep there to talk to.
So he is someone that we have been talking to and been talking to successfully until Trump arrived, when he's been trying to undermine the Iranian nuclear deal. And then on the other hand, those responsible for the courts and security seem to be from a completely different tradition politically. And there is a tension in Iran about both those. There are demonstrations, some in favour of one side, some in favour of another, and it is a complex picture. And what Rouhani has said, and he's right to say this, people should have the right to demonstrate peacefully.
I get that, I get all of that, but when you see women waving their hijabs saying that we have been oppressed all this time, and you hear the leader of the Labour Party celebrating the Iranian Revolution, celebrating 35 years of the Iranian Revolution, it seems to a lot of people that the Labour Party is not really living up to its liberal international instincts.
Well, we want Iran to move forward. We think that one path that is available is for actually the Iranian nuclear deal has a really important part to play in that, in terms of bolstering up the democratic, more liberal instincts of those on one side of the political perspective in Iran, and for the Iranian nuclear deal to be successful and for the Iranian economy to get back on its feet on the back of that was very important. And it may be that as time goes on, the theocracy, which is around the supreme leader, might dwindle if the economy did well. Okay. So it's quite a game of chess.
Let's move on to something that isn't a game of chess. Do you believe in party democracy?
Of course I believe in party democracy.
And you know, your party polled your own members when it came to bombing in Syria, for instance. And that was a good thing. So why will you not listen to your own party members when it comes to things like staying inside the customs union and a second referendum? Huge majorities for both of those.
So we have a responsibility to, when we are developing policy, to have deep respect for our membership, but also for the country as a whole. I have a responsibility to be a representative of Islington South and Finsbury who want to remain in the European Union when the country wants us to leave. It is a difficult balancing act. And so what we have said is that we must respect the results of the referendum, which means that we have to leave, but we have to look after the economy, which in my view means that we don't go very far.
But as was said by David Davis famously, what is a democracy if it isn't able to change its mind? If, when we see the final deal on offer, people are not happy about it, according to the opinion polls, could there then be a second referendum to reverse the decision?
Which deal are we talking about? Are we talking about the divorce or the ones after?
We're talking about the final deal, which we should see the basic shape of by the end of this year.
Well, by the end of this year, we'll have the divorce, and then we need to negotiate what our ongoing relationship with Europe will be, and that really is the important bit. So we'll have an interim period where the status quo.
By the end of the year, I'm just saying, you know, we'll know roughly speaking where we're going by the end of the year. At that point, would it be a reasonable democratic thing to ask people to think again? I mean, Nigel Farage is talking about it after all. It's not exactly
So first of all, we need to have a meaningful vote in Parliament, and that is what we finally wrung out of this government with the withdrawal bill. Now, they're going to have another go next week, I imagine, to try to go back on that, but we need to have a meaningful vote. So those who represent this country in Parliament must have a vote on the divorce. And if it's the wrong thing, then the government should go back and renegotiate. As for a second referendum, the question, first of all, is... First of all, the question is, are you talking about the divorce, or are you talking about the final relationship? Because the final relationship will be agreed in many years' time.
OK, in either case,
in either case, if 90% of the population was now saying we must stay in the European Union and we must not
55%?
leave, then that would be a challenge that would be there for all of us who are Democrats.
Okay.
But at the moment, and as things currently stand, we proceed in good faith. We do as we are instructed, and we are leaving the European Union, but we have to keep this government honest, and we have to make sure that when we do leave, we are making decisions that actually look after our country first and foremost, which means looking after the jobs of our kids.
Emily Thornberry, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. Brandon Lewis was picked out by Theresa May this week to rebuild the Conservative Party, to bring in more members, to start to give the Tories a better profile online and restore some campaigning confidence after that terrible, stuttering general election campaign. Frankly, from the perspective of January 2018, it looks like a pretty big job, Brandon Lewis. Can I start, however, by asking you about the John Warboys case? Can you confirm the government is looking for judicial review to reverse the decision to release John Warboys?
Yes, the Secretary of State is looking now at getting advice on whether it can judicially review it, because obviously if we can and the advice is clear that we can go forward with a judicial review in a positive way, then we will look to do that. I think every victim out there, every friend and family of victims, and anybody who's read about this case will want to know that we are doing everything we can to make sure that the victims are properly protected. And actually we're respecting the situation, the emotions and feelings that people have been through these tragic, awful situations will have.
Do you personally understand the outrage there is out there about this case?
Oh, absolutely. And I know somebody who's been through this and has been a victim of this. So, but even just reading about it, anybody out there will appreciate just how awful this must be for victims to see what is happening, to think about somebody like that being out on the streets. So I think it's absolutely right. The Secretary of State for Justice will be doing everything he can to make sure this man stays behind bars.
Right, you've taken over the Conservative Party as chairman. Would you like to see the Conservative Party having more members?
Well, I'm always looking to have more people out there working for the Conservative Party, delivering leaflets, as we were yesterday in my constituency and across the country, as well as knocking on doors. And ultimately, the number that really matters to me, obviously, in May this year and then in a general election, voting for us in those elections.
So you need those members. Have you any idea at all how many members you have at the moment?
Well, look, we've got a party that is devolved. We have a localised party. Membership is done locally. One of the reforms that I do want to take forward, Andrew, if you just let me finish this point, is I do want to bring that, the numbers and the data around membership into a central base. So in the future, yes, I will be able to give you an idea of our numbers, but right now, and ultimately my main focus is on the people who vote for us.
Isn't it simply a matter of addition? I mean, you've got members in Kent, you've got members in Scotland. All you need is a pencil and a piece of paper and just tot them up. What's so difficult?
Well, look, we can all play numbers games. And
Look,
if you look at the way the Labour Party look at their numbers and the things they include, we can all play. Actually, what matters to me is we've got a huge number of people, not just members, but volunteers and activists around the country who are out there day in, day out, knocking on doors, delivering leaflets, getting involved in social media to spread the message about the positive things we are doing in government for people so that we win those votes in a local and in general elections to make sure we give people good governance in their local areas.
Have you got as many members as the Labour Party?
Well, so I'm not going to play a numbers game, though, as tempting as it is, Andrew. What I'm focused on, actually, what I have got...
This is not just a numbers game, if I can say, is that they are absolutely taking you to the cleaners online, as you've more or less admitted, and they have lots and lots of people they can mobilise up and down the country to hit constituencies with lots of actual bodies knocking on doors and handing out leaflets. The Conservative Party has nothing like that number of people.
We have a huge number of great people out there, delivering leaflets, knocking on doors every day. And actually, as we saw at the last test, which was obviously in June last year, where we didn't win the seats we'd like to win, but we did get over 1 million more votes than we had before, 42.4% of the vote, biggest vote share we've had in decades. And I want to make sure we're building on that. And actually, as you say, quite rightly, building in our online presence as well, but doing it in a respectful way.
Now, talking of the online presence, you've more or less accepted the Labour Party doing better on Twitter and Facebook and stuff at the moment, and you are fighting back. Let's have a little look at one of the things that you're using to fight back. Came online, I think, this morning. We've banned credit card charges. Is that true?
Well, the government's bringing that ban through. It's something that's coming through across the European Union.
Where's it come from?
Well, it's coming through across the European Union. It's coming here.
It's an EU directive, is it not?
Which, of course, we are, at the moment, currently part of.
So you say we've banned credit card changes, the European Union has banned credit card changes, and you have been satirically mocked online already by Guy Verhofstadt for saying very, very pleased the Conservative Party has seen the benefits of European legislation.
Well, obviously the Conservative Party and our MEPs and our MPs and through the Council of Europe and all other areas, we are fully represented and part of that process of making those decisions. But I think what is really
Slightly
important...
embarrassing though, isn't it?
No, it's not. And actually we've got to spread that message much more widely around the things we're doing here at home, whether it's the work we're doing on the environment and making sure we're leaving a country better than we found it, but also make sure we do it with respect. What we're seeing in the Labour Party is the way that the online media is being abused in a way, and people are being abused on it, that is not acceptable.
OK, so you're going to crack down on all online abuse. You want Tory councillors, Tory candidates of all kinds to sign up to a respect pledge, and you'd like Labour Party to do the same. That's basically what you're saying.
Absolutely. We'll be drafting up a pledge. All our candidates will sign up to that pledge to behave responsibly and show respect online during the elections. And I do expect, Jeremy Corbyn's on TV this morning, I think, he should be coming out and standing up to this. Because when we've got people at the top of the party, the Labour Party, the Shadow Chancellor, using the kind of actions and language and behaviour they are, endorsing threats against other MPs,
well,
physical threats.
He was quoting somebody.
Yeah, but he's not apologised for that. He's not he's simply condoned that.
Well, he was quoting
We've got to make
somebody
sure.
rather,
Well,
yeah.
so he says, but if you look at the recording, that's what he actually said.
All right.
What we've got to make sure is that all of us at the very top of the party avoid this rot that we're seeing at the top of the Labour Party, and we actually show from the very top. We will use respect. We'll argue our case robustly, but with respect.
I think no politician has had more abuse online and in person than Diane Abbott, including from Conservatives. Can you apologise to her if everyone's going to be respectful for what's happened to her?
Well, nobody should suffer, and I do mean this cross-party. Any kind of personal, physical abuse online, it should be robust exchange of views. If we disagree on things that people are doing,
we can agree on that.
Abuse is a different thing, and that is not acceptable. And I will go further. If people in our candidates in the elections this year breach that code, and there is evidence they've breached that responsibility pledge, we will suspend them. And I call on the Labour Party to stand up and make the same statement.
All right, let's move on to another subject. It's reported today that although Donald Trump said he wasn't coming for the February visit because he didn't like the sighting of the embassy and so forth, actually, the real reason is he doesn't feel enough love from Britain for him. And he fears specifically that the Conservative Party thinks about him much as Jeremy Corbyn and Sadiq Khan think about him.
Well, I don't think it helps our country when we've got senior politicians asking world leaders and making the comments that Sadiq has made. Actually, what we've got to remember is we've got a very strong, long-standing, hugely important relationship with the United States. It goes beyond any individual one of us. That relationship is not just the special relationship, but it's important. They're one of the biggest investors in trade, are hugely important to our security interests, and we've got to make sure we're developing and continuing that relationship beyond any of us as
individuals. But do you understand, when I can't say the word on air, when he uses the word S-hole about a whole lot of countries with black majorities, do you understand why people see that as an absolutely outlandish, racist comment that has to be condemned?
Any of us should be using that kind of language, but I should also just be clear. I think the last thing I saw was the President himself was claiming he didn't actually say that, but no, that is the sort of language nobody should be using.
So would you like to see him come to this country this year?
Actually, what I find slightly odd, and Emily was on just now, is of course Emily on this show less than a year ago said that he should be coming. I think it is right that the President of the United States has a welcome to the United Kingdom. It's a very important relationship for us, and one that we should be looking to develop in the future for the benefit of all our residents and, of course, our industry businesses and our security relationship.
OK, one big policy issue, Carillion, a company which is on the edge of collapse, looks after, maintains half our prisons, many schools, many hospitals. Isn't this a classic case of the dangers of privatisation, that you put a private company in deep into the business of the state and then it gets into trouble and you have a real problem about whether you're going to bail it out or what are you going to do with it?
Well, obviously, there's a large amount of work. We're keeping a very close eye on this, make sure there are all plans and contingency plans in place. But it is a going concern. This is a business that is a going concern that we would look to see, and hopefully they'll be able to work with their partners to get the working capital they need to continue providing important services.
Is there any chance of the taxpayer bailing it out?
Well, I'm sure you'll appreciate, Andrew, it is a going concern. It's a very commercially sensitive situation, so I wouldn't comment further than to say it is a going concern.
Rule out the taxpayer bailing it out.
I would hope to see that the working capital they need will be there working with their partners, but of course ministers and my colleague, the Secretary of State of Business, is keeping a very close eye on it.
Brandon Lewis, thanks very much indeed for joining us today.